Thanksgiving 1933. That was the year that Devil's Brew touched my lips. Prohibition had been repealed, and up above this restaurant, that at the time was a bookie shop. Here's where the boys played the horses, $2, $3, and they lived at the hotel run by my mother, and we lived upstairs at this place. It was a men's hotel, and when you say a men's hotel today, people think of a flap house. It was precisely the opposite. Would you believe this? This is the lobby of the Wells Grand Hotel. In my mind's eye, I envision this place 10 times this size. This is a tiny room. And so my mother thought the boys should celebrate Thanksgiving since they had no families. Many were away from home or long ago left their families. She said, how about a little whiskey since it's legal to celebrate Thanksgiving? But there in one of those easy chairs was a torn leather armchair, as I remember. Otto, old Otto, was about 60, 65 or so. He may have been 40, but to me, a young kid, he was about 65. And he was weeping bitterly. And people asked him, what's the trouble, Otto? He is, my father died, and my mother is passing out the booze, the little shots from this glass, and she's about to pour Otto a drink to assuage his grief. When someone asks, when was it your father died? He says, 40 years ago. My mother, without losing a beat, turns around, pours that shot back in the bottle, corks the bottle, with one movement, very gracefully, losing no beat, walks toward the roll-top desk in the corner of the lobby, puts it in the bottle, pulls the top down, locks the top. She did it with the grace of Martha Graham. Once upon a time. Once upon a time, this was a bookie shop. Once upon a time, I was young. And once upon a time, Thanksgiving was celebrated by a bunch of guys.
A new event, a first-time experience, is about to confront the students of Lincoln School. The Teen Club is organizing a party at the community house, a new kind of party, a party with dates. This new step in growing up is greeted in varying ways.
How about it? You and your date. Who you going to ask?
Me? Oh, I'm not going. I don't like parties.
Oh, yeah? What you mean is that you're too scared to ask a girl for a date.
I am not.
You are, too.
I am not.
Hi, boys.
Hi, Coach.
What's the big argument?
Oh, Bill's kidding George. He says he's scared to ask a girl to the winter party.
Scared to make a date, George?
I never asked a girl to anything.
Maybe you haven't, but you'll be wanting to someday. Look at it this way. Remember the first time you ever dived? Remember how you just knew you couldn't make that first plunge? But you did. After that, it was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's all right as far as diving goes.
But gosh, dating's different.
Sure, but you'll want a date someday, George. It's easier here where you know everyone so well. Later on it may be harder. Like taking your first plunge from the high dive.
Diving into the social swim is a lot easier than it seems. It's just a matter of following a few very simple rules of etiquette, a matter, too, of having a little courage.
We're seated in a Chicago tavern, Mike Royko and I. Mike, as you probably know, is the preeminent columnist, not simply here, but pretty much pound for pound, the journalist in the country. And we're thinking about a tavern where we're seated now, Chicago Tavern. And I'm thinking, Mike, what's the first thought comes to your mind when I say tavern, early days and now?
Well, besides booze, neighborhood. That's really what I think about it. Neighborhood people, The tavern, a tavern is much more than a place where you get a drink, because you can get a drink, you can buy a pint in the liquor store and get a drink in the street corner. The neighborhood tavern, then, when I was a young guy, when I was working in my father's tavern, and in many places now, served a lot of functions. Community center, social center, political debating hall, the country club for the working guy, group therapy. Couldn't afford a shrink, so you go talk to the bartender. Find somebody in the bar who understood what his problem was. A lot of things, a lot of things.
Tavern always meant around the block or a couple of blocks away.
Corner bar.
And it meant a walk back home and a walk there.
Sure. Guys used to take their dogs out for walks, stop in for one or two. Kids used to come down and say, Ma says supper's ready. Okay, you know. The old man didn't go home and have a martini. That wasn't the way it was done. He came home from work, maybe washed up a little, and while supper was being made, he walked down and had a couple. He had his cocktail in the neighborhood bar. Now, you can't have neighborhood bars in the suburbs, in most suburbs, and it's almost a contradiction. How could if it's a suburb, it doesn't have neighborhoods, as cities know neighborhoods. And there's zones, so that most of them are zones, so you can't have a bar. You can't have anything. The proper place to go buy something is over at a mall. And there's something, I don't care how quaint they fix the inside of it up. I mean, if you pull up in a parking lot, and somebody is pushing a cart full of food, and somebody else is coming out of a Walmart or a Kmart, that just isn't the right ambiance for walking into a bar. You know, you open the door, you all these big stores, and you open the door, and suddenly you're in something that's supposed to be an Irish pub. And it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I was thinking, even I'm thinking about habits of drinking. Then, I know this is romantic, but it's true in working class communities, and when people came out near the steel mills, because the nature of the work, you'd have a shot and a beer very often. That was a phrase called the Boilermaker.
Sure.
Boilermaker. That, I suppose, is passé.
And most of the guys who worked in those mills lived nearby.
Yeah.
That was also when people didn't travel 20 or 30 miles to a job. People worked in their community. The neighborhoods were a mixture of residential and light industrial. And the people who worked in the mills in the southeast side of Chicago, they all lived out there.
So, of course, what you're saying really is in a way a social aspect is missing today, in a way. The social aspect that was present then takes a different form.
People go people go home and drink. That's a bad thing. Go home and drink. But that's the suburban pattern. I think the saddest thing I've ever seen is guys, not the saddest thing I've ever seen, but in terms of, we're talking about drinking patterns. Guys who rush into the big commuter station, Union Station, finish work, and they run over to what is like a cafeteria type of thing. They walk over and say, give me a double martini in a styrofoam cup. And they pay for it, and they go rushing off to get on their train. No, they're going to be on that train for 45 minutes, and then they're going to go from the station to their house. And the poor guy, if he lived in the city, he'd go home and he could walk down to the corner, have a relaxed drink, have a civilized conversation.
Yeah, I suppose, talking about that commuter going on that train back to the suburbs, sometimes he grabs that drink and it's in a paper cup.
Yeah, styrofoam.
Styrofoam.
Yeah, sure.
Somehow you can't imagine that guy of old days drinking a styrofoam cup. It doesn't fit. You know what? I think he gives the pen. You know, I'm going to have a shot and a beer. A Boilermaker and his helper. I think we got it. I think we got it. Every third
Keep
drink,
quiet.
sometimes every...
We're done.
We gotta be quiet.
Welcome to Stud's Place. It's just a little place in the neighborhood. The food is good, the prices are reasonable, and the people you meet there are Well, let's drop in and see what sort of people are around tonight.
And now, let's see what's happening at Stud's place.
Check on it. Yeah. That's what I thought. Can't save it forever. A cigar box. After all, I'm 39, pushing 40. You gotta go when the wagon comes. Call Joe Lewis an old man. I'm a year older than he is. I guess all that's left for a man that age is just the trip downhill, that's all.
Oh, man, is it raining out?
What, Chet? What's the matter with you?
Huh? Oh. Wait a minute.
What's the matter?
Oh. Huh? You ought to have that spot vulcanized up there.
Very witty. Great humor. I don't appreciate it.
Hey, we're going to have that party for the guys tomorrow? Huh?
What party?
Oh, you remember you said we're going to have a party?
I
the
was
bowling
talking about a party someday for the bowling team. I'm not in the mood, Chet, for any party, for any gaiety this weekend. Do you mind?
Yeah, I don't mind.
All right.
Buddy, if you're going out, you better put a skimmer on. Because that noggin, you know. Take care, old buddy.
Here.
I'm going in and sort of dry off.
Take care. Better put a skimmer on. I haven't worn a hat in 20 years. I remember I could walk out onto the road with an open collar, facing the future, unafraid, vibrant, full of zest for life. Now, pushing 40. Yeah, I'll pick up a hat, some protective covering. Sure.
Any leaks in here? Well, there's sure a lot of them out in the kitchen. That was the worst rainstorm we've had in years. Regular cloudburst. Well, you gotta expect leaks when a building gets to be almost 40 years old, you know? Hey, Studs, are we gonna have that shindig for the bowling team tomorrow night?
No, Win, I'm just not in the mood for laughter and chit-chat. Do you mind?
Well, would have been nice, but you're in charge, old man. Oh, say, one of the kitchen cabinets is right under a bad leak. Would you mind coming out and giving me a hand moving it? Yeah. Oh, never mind. Take it easy. Chet's out there. He can help me.
Wants a younger man. Chet's out there, of course. When friends begin to recognize old age, then you know it's a sign you're getting decrepit. Then all that's left for you is just to bide your time, that's all. Bide your time.
It's raining out. Gosh, look at me. I'm really soaked. Whew, it's coming down, you know. I'm just getting a little tired of all this rain. Had so much of it lately, have you noticed? My landlady says that it has something to do with all of these atomic energy explosions. You know, it creates a chemical, something or other in the elements. I can't... Oh, look at my hair. Look at that. Oh, nut. Gee, movie should know what happens to people when they get all wet, huh? If you're going out, you'd better wear your rubbers.
Yeah?
You got to take care of yourself because you've been catching too many colds lately. You're not getting any younger, you know. Hey, what'd you decide about the party for the bowling team? You going to have it?
Grace, we're not going to have any party for any bowling team. Let's hear no more about it, shall we?
What? I merely asked a civil question.
And you got a civil answer.
Oh, temper. Getting kind of crotchety in your old age, aren't you?
Studs will be back in a minute. But first, here is something else you ought to see.
How you listen. It's not simply the words. It's suppose you pick up on that, and how you use that tape recorder to capture.
it's shall I do you?
Yeah. Oh, she does takeoffs on people, and it's not. and I've never seen her do a takeoff on me.
Okay.
And it appears in this book several times, and we can recount the what led to that, the moments we met. But again, she is not mimicking the ones I saw. So I'm very curious. Now, join you. You've heard me talk a lot of times. You know the way I talk and do things. Now, here is Anna Devere Smith. Set the scene for
Okay, so here's the scene. So there's, I'm going to do, in the course of the evening, 2 different Studses, because there are 2 in the book, and he hasn't seen me do him. The first one took place when Studs and I had dinner together at a place called or rather, as Studs would say, a joint in New York called the Crocodile. And we went back to the lobby of my hotel, and he told me this story. Now, the way I'm going to do it is shows you what happens from the time he talks into my tape recorder until it becomes theater. And I'm on the road to find American Character. It's what I've been up to for almost 25 years. So it seemed to me the real person to go to find out about American Character was Studs. And so I title everything that I do because I think people, every piece from an interview, I think people speak in organic poems. And the question that I asked Studs was if he could tell me of a defining moment in American history. And this is what he told me.
Defining moment in American history. I don't think there's one. You can't say Hiroshima. That's a big moment. I don't think there's any one. I can't pick out it. It's a combination of many. I can't think of any one moment I'd say is a defining moment, but the gradual slippage. Slippage is the word used by Jeb Magruder, one of Nixon's boys in Watergate. Moral slippage. Went to jail. Jeb Magruder. Moral slippage. We accept it daily now more and more. It happens bit by bit and drop by drop. It's a combination of things, gradual kind of thing. See, the funny thing is we also have the technology. I say less and less the human touch. Oh, I could tell you a funny little playlet. The Atlanta airport is a modern airport. And as you leave the gate, there are these trains that take you out to a destination and to a concourse. And so you go on these trains, and they're smooth, and they're quiet, and they're efficient. And there's a voice on the train. And the voice was a human voice. You see, in the old days, we had robots. Robots imitated humans. Now we have humans imitating robots. So you got this voice on this train. Concourse 1, Omaha, Lincoln. Concourse 2, Dallas, Fort Worth. Same voice. Just as the train is about to go, a young couple rush in, and they're just about to close the pneumatic doors, and that voice, without losing a beat, says, because of late entry, we're delayed 30 seconds. Just then, everybody is looking at this couple with hateful eyes. And the couple is going like this, you know, shrinking. And I'd happen to have a couple of drinks before boarding. I do that to steel my nerves. And so I imitate a train call, holding my hand around. George Orwell, your time has come. Everybody laughs when I say that, but not on this train. Silence. And so suddenly they're looking at me. So here I am with a couple shrinking at the foot of Calvary, about to be up, you know. Just then, I see a baby, a little baby in the lap of a mother. I know it's Hispanic because she's speaking Spanish to her companion. So I'm going to talk to the baby. So I say to the baby, holding my hand over my mouth because my breath may be 100 proof. I say to the baby, sir or madam, what is your considered opinion of the human species? And the baby looks, you know, the way babies look at you clearly, starts laughing, starts busting out with this crazy little laugh. And I say, thank God for a human reaction we haven't lost yet. But the human touch, that's disappearing, you see. So you ask about a defining moment. There ain't no defining moment for me. It's an accretion of moments that add up to where we are now, where trivia becomes news, and more, less and less awareness of the pain of the other. So this as an interesting dilemma with which we're faced. I don't know if you can use this or not, but I was quoting Wright Morris, the writer from Nebraska, who says, we're more and more into communications and less into communication. That's Studs.
You know what? I never sounded so good. That was fantastic. I'm looking in the mirror right now. You must admit right now you're watching something remarkable happening. See, I have just seen myself in the mirror. That's the way I sound. Sort of kind of goofball-like. At the same time, wow, it makes sense. And this is what I mean. You notice she did not, I maintain, she did not mimic me, but she did something else. She caught something of which I was unaware. This is one of the keys, I think, to the giftedness of Anna Devere Smith. And I hope of me to some extent. No. And that is making that person aware. And just an anecdote to add to this, and I'm sure she's had that experience. Right now, I can't get over this, so it's quite remarkable. But I was interviewing this woman, and a young, pretty woman. It was at a housing project. This was years ago. It was a mixed project. So to this day, I don't recall whether she was white or black. She was pretty. She was skinny. She had bad teeth because no dentistry. She was poor. But she's thoughtful. She'd never had a tape recorder before. You notice she and I don't interview celebrities. She does when it's needed. On the last program, presidents and others, and captures their foibles. But in this case, just an ordinary anonymous person. And little kids are dancing around her. They want to hear their mama's voice because they've never spoken to a tape recorder before. And then, so I play it back. I said to the kids, "No, you be quiet. You're gonna hear your mama's voice." And so as she's hearing her voice, she suddenly puts her hand to her mouth and says, "Oh my God!" I said, "What is it?" And then she said, "I never knew I felt that way before." Well, that's jackpot. That's bingo. For her and for me. Mm-hmm. It's that kind of thing that you do.
As I went a-walking that ribbon of highway, I saw above me that endless skyway, saw below me that golden valley. This land was made for you and me.
You must understand that I'm 90. And so I've survived most of my old-time friends, long friends, and so sometimes I used to go to a restaurant with them, a certain restaurant no longer there, old journalists and writers and ad guys, and we'd tell jokes. And so a friend of mine tells a story, a contemporary. He was a television comedy writer. He is Charlie Andrews. He wrote the program I was involved with once, conceived it. Tell you about that later. Charlie says, "Did you hear the one about that old guy marries that young girl? She's about 2 generations younger than he is. Oh, let's call her Heather or Kimberly or a name like that." And so one day he meets a friend of his on the corner. The marriage is getting along pretty well. He says, "How are you and Heather doing?" "Oh, we broke up, we split." "How come?" "She didn't know the songs."
Says I, "But Joe, you're 10 years dead." "I never died," says he. And standing there as big as life and smiling with his eyes, says Joe, "What they forgot to kill went on to organize, went on to organize. From San Diego up to Maine, in every mine and mill, where working men are out on strike, you'll always find Joe Hill. You'll always find Joe
First time I heard Mahalia Jackson is indelible in my memory. I was at a record store, 1945, and I was playing all kinds of records were being heard there, jazz records and everything. I heard this one voice, 10-inch Apollo record, Move On Up a Little Higher. It was Mahalia Jackson. I never heard a voice like that before. I've heard Caruso's voice, which was great opera singers, but this was different. When I heard that record, I went to visit the church, Greater Salem Baptist Church in South LaSalle, and I told her I'm going to play her records on the radio. I worked very closely with Mahalia for many years, ever since hearing of that day, and I became the host of her radio show for years, worked with her, and she always said, oh, I said, Mahalia, when I hear you sing, I could possibly be, you almost got me going. He said, if I could save you, Studs, that would be it, you know. And that was Mahalia.
And love, tough love. Nothing is married in Chicago, a real honest-to-God marriage. Sometimes they fought, husband and wife. Sometimes they loved each other very much, but always they knew they were together. When someone says, my wife is the most beautiful woman in the world, no one ever liked her, she is a saint, he's a liar. His wife was a human being whom he loved, and nothing was that way with the city. He said, living in Chicago is like being married to a woman with a broken nose. There may be lovely unlovelies, but never unlovely so real. As the real Chicago, and as look at your faces, you have Chicago face. Not the beautiful people who make the society. I look at you lived-in faces. He wrote about your kids, your nephews, some got in trouble. Those are the ones he celebrated. He says it's easy to love a city for the towers along the lake, but you got to love its alleys, its side streets too. City of bungalows, the city of two flats, the city of projects, the city of single-room occupancies. These make Chicago tick. There's one little phrase in the book. Before you earn the right to rap any sort of joint, you have to love it a little while. You have to belong to Chicago like a crosstown trench where the arm of a jail and barns first. You can't rap a thing that is a crossroad. And then he says, you compare to all the cities of the world, it's unique. City that built the skyscrapers. It's you who did it. You know who you represent it. And that's what it's about. So I'm honored and delighted to have the mayor here too, who understands this. That we celebrate a man who has come back home. And that's what it's all about. Thank you for being here.
I think Stubbs Turkle put it very correct about why we're here. Is that when you look around this audience, you see all types of people from ethnic and racial, religious organizations, young and old, people who just moved here a few weeks ago. But what he, Dr. really knew about Chicago is all those people that who carry those little buckets to work, all types in the stockyards and the near north side, downtown, that build the factories. They made all the people very wealthy. And a few people very, very wealthy. Everything on buses or walking to and from work. He basically captured the love of people. And that's why we're here. And that's why you're here. By reading him, by understanding who he was. When you understand that, then you know who you are. And that's why affection for its people and for its city. And so I'm very pleased to see this beautiful triangle. For years as we came by and we just saw the cement. And now we can maybe sit along here and relax and think about something and be courteous to someone else, waiting for a bus. You know what this triangle is dedicated to. You know the person who they dedicated this triangle to. And I just want to thank the East Village Association, Nelson Algren Committee, Noble Square Homeowners, Old Wicker Park Committee, Polish Roman Catholic Union, and Wicker Park Chamber of Commerce for assistance in this wonderful project. And I hope we can do this all over the city in honor of artists and community people who really deserve the recognition in the history of the city of Chicago. Thank you very much.
The question comes up Nelson about Nelson leaving Chicago, and he's moved to Patterson. The question is your reaction. You describe Patterson as a boom town.
Yeah, well, it is. It's booming in welfare. Downtown Patterson is really something you shouldn't see after midnight. No, it's a lovely little city, and I mean, it's just my kind of town, that's all. I just like it. I like it.
It's your kind of town.
Yeah, I like it. I do. I like Patterson. Well, Jersey City, you see, I mean, the reason I call Patterson a boomtown is Jersey City has always been a welfare city. But Patterson is coming from behind because it used to be affluent. No, it was a very affluent textile city. And now all the silk factories and the silk machinery is gone, and they're wholly dependent on welfare. So they're in close competition now, and they're really catching up with Jersey City. You can't walk across the city anymore. No, you can't. No, the cab drivers told me that. I said, I lived here all my life. I love the city, but I can't walk across it anymore. No, it's very sad.
Why go there?
Well, I didn't really go there. I just stopped off, and it was Patterson. You know, that's as far as I could go. The train didn't go any further. No, the train went to Newark, actually. And in Newark, I couldn't get a room, so I took a bus to Patterson. Then I was sorry I didn't stay in Newark when I saw the rooms in Patterson. It's a town that makes Gary, Indiana look extremely affluent. Yeah.
People will ask you, they'll ask you, what do you plan to do? Nelson Org, what do you plan to do in Patterson?
Well, I plan to belong to the community, to work with the Boy Scouts and the Junior Chamber of Commerce, and to, help put it back on its feet. I mean, it needed me. I could see Patterson needed me, so I stayed up.
Do you think you might conceivably run for office in Patterson, take part in public life?
Oh, I'm sure they'll ask me to run. I mean, they like me. They like me in Patterson.
Chicago will miss you. The question is, will you miss Chicago?
No, I've never missed Chicago. No, I mean, I don't. Chicago, and I don't think Chicago's going to miss me.
Can that be true?
No, Chicago won't miss me. I mean, I went up to the public library the other day. Let's see, I've written 10, 11 books, and there isn't one there. They are in Tokyo. They're in the public library in Tokyo, and in Paris, and in about 10, 11 cities. They're not in Chicago.
Won't Studs miss you?
Oh, I don't know. Studs can get by. I mean, of course he'll miss me, but after all, Studs survived the Chicago fire. Why, he can survive this too. He survived the loss of the 1959 pennant to Brooklyn. He still lived on. So.
L.A.
Yeah.
Well, are you going to miss him?
Oh, I'll miss him. Yeah, when Nelson will miss the city, I don't know. But certainly there are a number of people, quite a few people in Chicago will miss Nelson, quite obviously. And I ask you why.
Well, I love New Jersey. And I love San Francisco, and New Jersey is on the way. It's on its way.
Well, how will you get from New Jersey to San Francisco?
Well, it's very close. I'm near the port of New York now, and so I can get a ship out to any of the North African ports, or Barcelona, Marseille. I go down the Mediterranean, and I stop at one of the Greek ports, and you go down. Then you go down the Persian Gulf and around. I've been to India, so I won't stop there. But you go around India, and you go right to the port of Yokohama. I won't go to Korea because, well, that's out of the way. I don't want to go out of the way. And then you go down to the Philippines, and from Manila or Luzon, you can get a ship. In 2 weeks, you can get to San Diego from the Philippines. But if you don't stop in Hawaii, I don't want to waste any time in Hawaii. It takes only 2 weeks on a freight ship, and then from San Diego, you're only 45 minutes from San Francisco.
So you move to Patterson.
It's a direct move.
And get close to San Francisco.
Yeah. No, I love San Francisco. My father was born there. I always wanted to get back. And so this is They expect me there.
I think they got it. I'm glad he got that reason moving to San Francisco to get move to Patterson to get to San Francisco, and they'd like some.
Well, I don't see why people think it's out of the way, unless you think the world is square or something. I mean, you don't have to. In other words, if I went there directly, I'd have to go through Denver. And anybody, you know, I mean, well, no. I mean, it's much better the other way, you know.
You think of what is the classic American city. Huge, big, brawling, the words of Carl Sandburg, hog butcher, the world's stacker of wheat, Center Nation's railways. It's none of those today. It's all gone. But the dream, the vision of Chicago and the skyscrapers, the first city that saw the skyscraper, the architect, more than that, Chicago, a city of hands. See this hand I got? Hands is an old-fashioned word for working people, working men, working women. Chicago is a city of hands, and these working men of calloused and women of calloused hands who built the city. It wasn't hot shots. It wasn't Sharpies. It was the muscle of these people who built this town, and that's Chicago.
These are on?
He was a man and a friend always. He stuck with me in the hard old days. He never cared if I had no dough. We rambled around in the rain and snow. In Chicago town.
It's a great song, Charlie. I love this song.
With God we trust.
Would it be a sing-along? This is a great song. You know what that end with, of course, this land is your land.
The boss said
I bless you all. You're the people.
Here's to you. So here's to you.
My rambling boy. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and fellow Chicagoans. This occasion simply proves if you live long enough, anything can happen. I was thinking, well, I first came here from the Big Apple, New York, at 8 years old, shortly after Warren Harding was elected president. About 6 months after, I remember the night I came. It was a balmy summer evening, as they put it. I had asthma. I was afflicted with asthma all my life while living my first 8 years in New York. And that night there was a strong south wind blowing from stockyards. And that night my asthma was cured. That is true, by the way, which is why I prefer Chicago to the Big Apple. This particular bridge is a Chicago bridge. It's a bridge of working people, for Chicago has been primarily a blue-collar city. And so whenever I'll see that bridge going up to allow some iron ore coming in from the Sabi Range of Minnesota, I'll feel good. Whenever that bridge going up, when some paper is coming in from the mills of Canada, I'll feel good. Whenever the bridge goes up and cargo, industrial necessities carried, I'll feel good. But if a single sailboat goes through with a high mast, will crew a yuppie couple Acapulco can, never! Well, this is Chicago Bridge. And there's one more thing to be said about this bridge named after an honor, by the way, there's far, I must be frank about it, far too much. Because there are people, writers and chronicles of the city history, who can have streets and alleys and boulevards and parkways named after them. We have more bridges than Paris does. Paris was a city, far more, but Paris does have avenues called Rue Victor Hugo, Rue Émile Zola, bridges after writers and others who know the alleys and honor the alleys and the back streets as well as the boulevards. So I see someday Chicago Street called Nelson Aldrin Avenue. Right on. Or Mike Royko Parkway. Or James T. Farrell Boulevard. Yes. Or Gwendolyn Brooks Terrace. Because in a sense it is those writers who respect, to follow the credo of Nelson Algren, respect what is behind the billboards as well as in front of it. And so I feel very honored. And I say, I think this is much too much, but I'll take it nonetheless. and I thank the mayor, of course, but primarily I thank you who've given me all the material I need, the people of Chicago. Thank you very much. It's the first edition you got here, Loretta.
Let me see the book. Thanks so much.
Just
It's a Chicago book.
Huh?
George.
George, of course, for George. In our goofy, wondrous town. I own a bridge. It's my bridge. I might have the privilege someday, if things go bad, of jumping off a bridge named after me. That, you must say, is quite a feat. A man of distinction. In any event, this is a moving day because we're blessed with the best of days as far as weather goes. The turnout is... These are friends of mine, some of whom I never met, but they're friends of mine, many I know. And these are, in a way, representing the people of Chicago, I think. Because all of them are they're not celebrities, see. Thank God there's not one celebrity. Unless you call Royko, which he is, but don't call him that in his face. So basically, this amounts to me a memorable day. It is. And I would like to see more and more writers who represent the city, who know the city, such as notably Nelson Algren and Gwendolyn Brooks, people like that, and James D. Farrell. That we can borrow from Paris, I think. I like that idea. Streets named after creative spirits who celebrate the city. That which is behind the billboard is that which is more fully advertised. And I'm going to have me a piece of brittle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's good.
How are you going to celebrate now?
Oh, just relax. Take it easy. This is good.
By chance, Harold doesn't win, runs a close second. Some will say your vote was wasted. No. I would rather vote for something I want and not get it than vote for something I don't want and get it. And that's been the case of Chicago all these years. But I think the intelligence of Chicagoans will result in quite conceivably can be a victory for Harold. And to my white fellow Chicagoans, I say this transcends race. It involves vision. It involves self-respect for yourself and for your intelligence, which I shall exercise on that day when I vote for Harold Washington.
We never stopped believing that we were a part of something good and something that had never happened before. We intend to revitalize and rebuild this city, to open its doors and be certain that its babies are healthy and its old people are fed and well housed. And for me, it's all right. It's all right. You never get them all. That's why we have a democracy. Because there are many opinions in the city as diverse and multi-ethnic as the city of Chicago. Proud to be a part of that great adventure. I am so humbled by the fact that you have seen fit to give me the responsibility to lead that adventure.
Here is the day after this incident. I got a call from Mike Ruggers. Have you heard about Daley today? And he says he was on stage, and Dick Simpson said after Daley was thinking of appointing Keene's son to a zoning commission, I forget, and he's also involved with a realty company. And so this guy Simpson says that's a conflict of interest. And furthermore, it sounds like nepotism, appointing the son of a friend. And he says, nepotism! And then he's furious. And you'll hear part of his voice. He says, what kind of society is this, which you're afraid to appoint your son or a nephew or a relative? And his voice lowers. And then he says, fear? Fear what people will say? Fear, the voice is, who creates this fear? All of a sudden you got that voice. Nuremberg, you know. So here, listen to this. You hear the voice. You won't make out the words too well because he's so emotional. Listen.
And if this is the society in which we live, and we're afraid to appoint our son, or our nephew's son, or our relative, or afraid to appoint any one member of our family, because of what? Fear of what might be said? Not the truth, the fear. Who creates the fear? Who creates these phony issues? The very people we're talking about. I say to you very frankly, if you're a teacher, God help the students.
God help the students. It's not Stick Simpson.
If this is what's being taught.
This is what's being taught. Listen to that. That's the city council, the trained seals, all applauding, clapping their flaps.
The climax of a most remarkable outburst by the mayor of our city.
Now I got to have Mike.
Yesterday in the council chambers.
Hold it. Stop.
I was in bombed-out cities in Europe during the war. And then I came home to Chicago, to this. What are you going to do with this neighborhood? That's for all the people burned to death in slum fires. That's for all young couples living in rotten kitchenettes. And here's one for more open spaces and parks. Okay, so after you tear down, you start building up. Construction. 6 low-rent public housing projects to house 12,000 Chicagoans. The vast Michael Reese Hospital project. Lake Meadows, a privately financed development to replace 85 acres of slums. A new city in the making. A new city in the making, with clean new apartments, up-to-date schools away from heavy traffic, a planned environment for 40,000 Chicagoans.
Chicago, Chicago, that toddling town. Chicago, Chicago, I will show you around. I love it, bet your bottom dollar you lose the blues in Chicago, Chicago, the town that Billy Sunday couldn't shut down.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, anytime.
You're ready, go.
One of the aspects of America that makes it remarkable is that it's a home of many mavericks, often not heard from, those who dissent from what is powerful and established. And one of them in the whole world of baseball is Bill Veeck, who has a sense of humor too. And Bill Veeck is at one of his habitats. It's a bar here in Chicago, a saloon. And Bill, I was thinking Solidarity Day being commemorated on that Saturday the 19th. When I say solidarity to you, what does that mean?
Well, to me it means you're thinking of the way things used to be in the unions when it was terribly important in the days of the Knights of Labor, in the days of Samuel Gompers, while they were fighting for recognition. Now it a little bit worries me. I wonder if solidarity doesn't have a different connotation today, and I wonder if it doesn't people don't get carried away with it. For instance, we have here, as you know, in Chicago, a strike by engineers in the construction business. And out of sympathy for a period of time during the high point of the building business in the summertime, 50,000 people were out of work because of 10 or 12,000 engineers. And they finally said, look, our whole summer will be gone, and how are we going to feed the kids during the winter? And they called off the sympathy strikes. I'm in favor of solidarity, but I wish it would more...
What does solidarity mean to you when I say Solidarity Day, Poland, Warsaw?
Oh, quite different.
Why?
Quite different, because they're in the process of organizing. They're in the process of where we were 60, 70, 80 years ago. Now we are in the process of refinement. Here 25 ball players who average $200,000 a day, put vendors, ushers, ticket sellers, ticket takers, car parks, all of these out of business because their $200,000 was inadequate. Well, that doesn't seem to me that that's solidarity. And I don't want to end up in the position of being anti-labor, because I'm not. But what I am is I in a terribly difficult position of seeing both sides of a problem. The problem that I am afraid isn't going to be solved by Mr. Reagan's solutions, but unfortunately one in which I'm not smart enough to provide any other solutions.
But the big thing I want to say to you right now is, I got to see you back in baseball.
Those are separate problems.
No, it's all related to me. To you being back in action as an independent thinker, which you are, and with a sense of humor. That's something else we've got to have.
Well,
Bill, thank you, for just thoughts. This is just, all we're doing here is just
that
rambling.
is the one thing I think, Studs, that is most evident in this whole situation now, is that not just in baseball, but all over, we've lost our sense of humor.
I know.
I mean, I can't see of Mr. Reagan, for instance, of doing other than one-liners that he had written for him.
Now, has written for him.
I don't believe that he basically has a sense of humor.
That's an interesting comment you made. I like that. That's true, by the way. You see, we say he's funny. It's an ersatz figure. This is not on the air anyway.
Sure. Why not? What's wrong with it? He's a manufacturer.
Yeah, he's a manufacturer.
Well, certainly. I don't find any joy around. Oh, look at these guys that he's got in there.
You had a joy. See, this is humor. It's ersatz. It's manufactured. Just even phony joy. That's the whole point. There's no spontaneity to the goddamn thing. No. You got a banal idiot. Well, anyway, we're off the air now. Anyway.
Well, it doesn't matter whether we are or not, huh?
How are you? That's the important.
I won't say anything.
This is all secondary.
I do think that this thing. I wish they had made the appeal first to all the people who want a pure air and
Well, they're all. By the way, OSHA's part of it. Occupational hazards, and that's being destroyed by Reagan. The whole idea of the Office of Safety and Health. You got Watt.
Don't forget.
He's got the Secretary of Interior. Absolute clown.
Education. That's gone.
Education. Oh, absolutely.
Yep, he's a hero, all right. Radio said so, movies said so, papers said so. But he hasn't got a place to live. He hasn't got a decent place to live. Go on in, Jim. Go on. Find out why you haven't got a place to live. You built 100 barracks in a day. You built a city in a year and a half. Find out why, Jim. You've got a right to know. That's the idea, Jim. By yourself, you'll never get a place to live. But 50 million of you can, by working together. You voted 50 million times, Jim. Use care when you vote again. You grew 1 billion bushels of wheat.
Now write a billion letters. Work with your neighbors, your friends, work with everybody. You must be housed. Surprisingly enough, most congressmen can read. Keep them at it with your letters, petitions, telegrams, and ballots. You fought to defend your home. Now fight to get one. Committees and ballots are your weapons. This is your battle. It's just a place where I go on occasion to eat, that's all, actually. It's not... There's nothing special about it. Coming here. You know my friend Roberto Estrada.
Ah, Mr. Turkle, once again it's an honor to serve you.
You see, it's an honor to serve me. Now, we know each other 35 years. He says, Mr. Turkle. That's interesting, see. So I say, Mr. Estrada, Senor Estrada.
Mr. Estrada, Mr. Turkle.
And so someday, but some people call you Bobby.
Yes.
And what do you call them?
Well, I call them Mr. So-and-so, Mr. this, Mr. that.
If I were to ask Bobby right now his thoughts, I say Bobby now, I'm self-conscious after our conversation. He was still acting, he's performing too. You got to remember that. All of us are, in a sense, this is sort of Pirandello-esque in a way, you see. Except that, see, I have a problem with the book. If you're aware of it now, you probably are, that I'm affected and people in the book are affected when they see them one way or another. They're never quite the same. In some small way, they've changed. Now, and sometimes my life doesn't really become involved with them, but in a sense it does. And so, see, Pirandello in Six Character Search of an Author, he's the characters he created will not let him escape, you see. But in this instance, they're actual people, you see. This is what I call post-Pirandello. We're here the post-industrial age. This is a post-Pirandello age, is what it really is, you see.
This is the first.
Grazie. Oh, in Spanish,
Muchas gracias. Muy amable. Troppo amabile.
There is no word as beautiful as the Italian prego. Prego. You think nada is the word, but nada is not like
But you see, you're not saying it properly. It isn't nada. Nada. Soft.
Nada soft.
Very soft. Like a whisper. Like a let's say like a foam. Like a feather floating in the breeze. Nada. Nada. There is no more beautiful language than Spanish.
Yeah, except for the word prego. When some old Italian woman says that she helps you with something, she may have made the bed or something, or and you say, oh, grazie, signora, signora, grazie. She says, prego.
Well, I mean, to each his own. I mean, you like bourbon, I like scotch. And that's the way it is.
Hail to the cook and his work of art, the Empire Room of Chicago's Palmer House. It is a table to be found in many hotel dining rooms and restaurants throughout America. This table of plenty did not come into being by magic, no siree. It is the handiwork of many hands, many skills. Too many cooks spoil the broth? No siree. Not when each man knows his job, as these cooks of the garde-manger department. Garde-manger. It's a fancy word, a French phrase, meaning pantry, larder, guardian of the foods. It's one of the nerve centers of the entire kitchen. Here, all the foods are given the finishing touch. The hors d'oeuvres, the meats, the fish, the fowl. Cooks working as a team with efficiency, friendliness, dignity. The hallmark of a modern kitchen. Once upon a time, in the days before the Union, there was no such feeling. Back then, the chef was the autocrat, the tyrant of the kitchen, and his helpers walked in fear. Even management trembled at one man's whims and dark moves. Today, the head chef and his helpers, all brothers in the Union, work together in a spirit of harmony
And everybody benefits, the guest as well. For as a result of this teamwork comes this. A table of plenty. The Buffet Deluxe Hotel dining room. Not by magic, but by the collective skills of hundreds of cooks. From the kitchen, to the dining room, to the guests.
And now, let's go into Stud's place.
That was the arrangement committee. We got to get a few things settled. Come on over here. You know, tomorrow night when you get up there, you're going to be on a platform, see? There's going to be amber spotlights on you. Then when you accept the nomination, boom, we put the white ones on you. It sort of, you know, brings you out to the crowd. Are those your shoulders? I said, are those your shoulders?
Why, what's the matter?
Well, we can always get a tailor to kind of pad them up a little bit. How tall are you, Studs?
5'5"1/2.
Well, we can always get some elevator shoes. One of those things.
What's the matter?
Hey.
The roof. Get the pan. Here, Lincoln.
Get a pan.
Right.
Yeah, and I kind of wish you had more hair, Studs. You know, they say a nice big shock of hair sort of inspires confidence in a politician.
Studs, are you sure? Give me a hanky. You sure you got it all dried? You don't want your hair to be damp like that. You're losing it fast enough. Rots the roots.
Well, I knew it was going to happen. After all, this building is almost 40 years old.
Yeah, well, when a thing gets to be that old, it begins to droop and sag.
Yeah, talking about droopy, you know, you're getting kind of droopy yourself here, Studs, and a few wrinkles. We can get a hold of a good photographer, though. He can retouch those negatives. It'll cost a few more bucks, though.
When?
Yeah.
Never mind the pan. Just let it trickle and drop on the floor. It doesn't matter.
Now, just a minute, Ziggy. Now, we've spent $103.50 already.
Hang on. I'll get it.
Gracie, I'm not the man for the job.
Wait a minute. $103 ain't an awful lot of money to spend for being president. Just think of what it's going to do for you, Studs.
Shep, my good friend, you misunderstand. It isn't the money. This is just a dream, and it's shattered. See what Ziggy wants? He wants a man of youth and vitality. He wants football shoulders. You hear what he said about elevator shoes? And about my baldness? And about retouching the photos?
Studs. That's the committee again. They want to sort of get a biographical sketch of you. You know, pass out information to the crowds and all that sort of stuff. All right, let's start out with, where were you born?
South Ashland Avenue.
In Chicago?
Yeah.
That's good. That's 1 point for you. Where'd you go to school?
McKinley High.
Good. How old are you?
39.
39, fine. 39?
See that? What I tell you? Yeah, I guess I'm too old for the job. Oh, well, I can do the work of younger men, my friend.
Listen, I didn't say you was too old. The bylaws of the organization say that the guy that's up for candidate to be president of the Booster Club has got to be at least 40 years old. You're too young.
Well, I'll be 40 next year.
You got to be 40 now, pal, now, not next year. What am I going to tell the committee, huh? Now I got to go tell them to call it off. That's real nice.
Oh, shucks. Gee whiz, that's too bad.
After we had it all figured out, now you can't be it?
Well, it's not really too bad when you come down to consider it, you know?
Oh, yes, it is.
No! Didn't you hear what the man said? I'm too young. I'm too young for the job.
I don't care. I'm real disappointed. Here, I thought I was going to be working for the president of the near Northwest Side Boosters Club. And after spending all that money, too, that's what gets me.
Gracie, don't worry about money. What's money? Just a few greenbacks?
Yeah, just a few greenbacks. What are we going to do with all that food?
You got 2 boxes of swell cigars. What are you going to do with them?
Yeah, what am I going to tell Charlie and Wally?
Yeah.
You know something, fellas? I feel in the mood. I feel in the mood for a real party tomorrow night. How about calling the fellas of the bowling team, huh? Call all the fellas, get all the food, all the cigars, all the music. And you tell them the captain wants to celebrate the springtime of his life.
In Chicago, there were 3 programs that were called Chicago-style TV. One was Garraway at Large. Dave Garraway had that free, easy, casual quality. Another was Kukla, Brain and Ollie, which Bert Tillstrom was the impresario. And then there was Stud's Place. And it was a restaurant, just a neighborhood of Chicago, any neighborhood. We called it the near northwest side. I ran it, but there was a waitress, Gracie, played by a marvelous actress, Beverly Younger, and a friend of mine, Win Strachey. Win was a folk singer. He played sort of a Jack London figure, a handyman.
Beautiful, Win.
Then there was Chet Roble, a sort of bluesy, 2 o'clock in the morning jazz pianist, and they were the 4 people of this restaurant.
Listening to the best blues in town. Lord, Lord, Lord.
And the lines all came from the cast. The dialogue was our own dialogue. My dialogue, Win's, Chet's, and Beverly's. I played myself. Yeah, that improvisatory air, as indeed as though it were done in a jazz fashion.
You've got Little Walter next, and Mean Old World.
This is about the oldest record in the book, and I thought, hey, I'm in Chicago. This is a great Chicago record, and a great blues record. And also, I think what we've just been talking about is this is a post-war record, and the big line in it, if you can understand it, is this is a mean old world. You got to try to live in it by yourself. Is that right?
By yourself, yeah. You
can't live. It's a mean old world. You can't live in it by yourself. Can't love the one. Can't live with the one you love, and you got to love somebody else.
Yeah. So no, it's more community than by yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what he's saying is you got to have community, no matter.
This came
what the
just after pretty much the 50s, I think it
51
was.
or 2.
And it was Chess, I believe.
Chess Records, Little Walter, and
now,
his Nightcats.
I may have done, I'm not sure if I did liner notes for this
Yes,
one
you
or
did.
not. I'm trying to recall now. A past catches up with you, Little Walter.
Well, absolutely.
This is a mean old world. Try living by yourself. This is a mean old world. Try living by yourself. Can't get the one you love and have to use somebody else.
Kurt Vonnegut is in town. He's here for the Printers Row Book Fair. That's the one in the area, the whole New River area where let's try again. I don't know what I'm talking about. We'll try again, okay? Thank you. Kurt Vonnegut is a certain kind of writer. Somehow he is serious. And I think one of the aspects of our day is there's a lack of seriousness about almost anything. In fact, the trivialization of our country may be what it's all about. In fact, that's what many of his books are about, too, in his own witty fashion, yet acerbic fashion that one tells about ourselves. Hocus Pocus, his recent book, really talks about that, about one group taking over another group. One group happens to be a prison, the other group a college, and the first group should have taken over the other group long ago anyway, in Hocus Pocus. Kurt, I know you're in town for the Printers Row Book Fair, a gathering of a lot of writers in the Midwest and elsewhere. And you'll be talking and also reading from your book and taking part in a panel on censorship.
Yes.
And so we begin. Shall we talk about censorship?
Well, the fun part is talking about fundamentalists and hypocrites like Jesse Helms and so forth, and their skittishness about sex and that sort of thing. Everyone can congratulate himself or herself on being far more liberal and worldly than to welcome that sort of censorship. But there's a sort of censorship that scares me a hell of a lot more, which is controlling the mood of the country so that you dare not talk about some things, as you dare not criticize this great victory in the Persian Gulf because the people around you will get quite angry. And I've wondered how that censorship works, because you don't have to write a law to bring that about.
Now, this is a remarkable event. The fact is that there was a very quick victory thanks to high technology, thanks to something called a patriot, that is not a flesh and blood figure, but a thing that beat their thing. And so we have soldiers who are good, hard-working young kids, many minorities being honored, but questioning the event.
Well, I hope they question. Of course, they're not allowed to question. I'm a well-known pacifist, and the country tolerates a certain number of freaks like that. It's about 8 of us, I think, and I'm okay, so I can say anything I want. But most people are afraid to even think that maybe this was not such a marvelous event after all, and this unanimity, I think, is done. I think it's a technological accident, and I think it grows out of the nature of television. It rather looks as though he's trustworthy, as though he would tell you if anything was really wrong.
Of course you know.
So does Jennings. So does the people who give us the news, and McNeil and Lehrer. And they're also very humorless. They don't kid about anything.
So we have covering the war that isn't covered. That is, there's no analysis of it. In fact, there was cheerleading on the sidelines.
Yeah, the Nuremberg rally, as some people have said. And, being allowed to say anything because of who I am. I think this is very similar to Mussolini's Italy, which was as corrupt and as bankrupt as this country is now. And so what did he do to make the Italian people stand tall again? He knocked over Ethiopia, which is nowhere.
Well, thinking about this now, something called the Vietnam Syndrome. We, that is John Wayne, us, got a black eye from little guys in black pajamas. Now, no one asks, what are we doing on their front porch? But they run back to the front porch, and we walking down. It's high noon with a black eye or a bloody nose. How could that be? So we got to beat somebody. So there is Grenada. That's Woody Allen.
Yeah.
That's Muhammad Ali knocking out Woody Allen. And so there's Grenada. Most Americans never heard of Grenada. They don't name a Spanish folk song.
Well, they don't even know that it was a British colony and not an American one.
But so that's whom we beat.
Yeah.
Because Grenada, we know, is a powerful Luftwaffe about to bomb us tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, they did have a very long runway. Wasn't that the story?
And that was for tourism. Built by Cubans for tourism. Yeah. We said.
But the baloney seems to satisfy the crowd, it's too bad. And of course, at Panama, we killed between 1,000 and 2,000 civilians. There's people down there with rockets that went astray and all that, and that was supposedly quite wonderful too. I think of my generation, I've said, we were a pacifistic generation because the United States was so disillusioned by World War I and felt it had been suckered into that. So public school system of Indianapolis, and I'm sure Chicago too, trained its students to loathe war and to be proud that we had no generals on the cabinet or anything like that. And then we turned out to be pretty good soldiers, as we fought all right, although we were raised that way. But we went to war with two fears, and they were equal. One, that we might get killed. The other was that we might have to kill somebody. We dreaded those things equally.
I gotta see myself once more. I gotta discover myself once more. So set the scene for that.
Set the scene. Well, I want to say, first of all, that, what it means to me to be with this man who, Studs, I don't know if you know this, I open every speech I give I give a lot of speeches with you, because I feel that you are a kind of a spiritual mentor and twin to me, that we've been trying to find out some of the same things about this country and ask the same questions. And sometimes people don't like the questions that we ask, but we ask them anyway. And so I pretty much begin this book and end this book with you. And it's my tribute to you. And before I close with you, I would like you all to appreciate with your hands Mr. Studs Terkel. So I called up...
I'm proud of nothing more than what I just heard. In any event, here she is. I want to watch this.
So when the Monica Lewinsky scandal hit, I'd already been in Washington for about 3 years. I'd already had the play performed. I wrote a play about this time in Washington as well. And I was in the middle of a rewrite, and lo and behold, I'm coming back from Washington on a plane and read the first snippings and spatterings of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. It's like, oh my God. I mean, then I had to, I just rewrote the play a million times because this thing kept going on and on and on. And at one morning, I called up Studs to see what he thought about it, and he put the phone down. I hear him off the side going, this is called Clowns, by the way. I said, Studs, what did you think about what's going on with Monica Lewinsky? Oh, my God! God, my God! When it goes back to as far as guys, presidents with dames, my God! Kennedy, my God! It wasn't so much Addison's disease. He suffered from satyriasis, probably. In fact, they said it. So what? And my favorite president of the century, the one president, the major league, FDR. Of course, well, FDR is said to have had a fling with a socialite. And he had polio. I said, my God, the man has polio. This might be very good therapy. Long before McCarthy, there was New Salem. And I think that Hillary has a point about it being a right way, but that's too simple. Of course they're out to get him, but that's not what the issue is to me. To me, the issue is, what the hell have we learned? Where are we? I was born in 1912, the year the Titanic sank. Greatest ship ever built. Hits the tip of an iceberg, and bam! It went down. It went down, and I came up. Wow, some century. But it's not this. It's not this. This almost becomes it becomes not the crowning touch, but the clowning touch. It's the clowning touch. It ends with a fright wig, putty nose, and baggy pants. And this is it. It's not just Clinton and Monica. We're all wearing fright wig and putty nose and baggy pants. We're all demeaned. By that I mean all of us are clowns. That's what it's all about. Still a new century with all the discoveries made in medicine, perhaps more to come, and yet with fewer and fewer people controlling more and more and more, and the more and more and more, feeling more and more and more helpless. And who runs the means of communication that condition these people that think as they think and vote as they vote? So we got Lewinskyism and Monicaism instead of what the hell are we then doing to all these countries and to the have-nots in this country. So we're wearing baggy pants, putty nose, and fright wigs. We've been conditioned to wear them by this time. You see, we've got to question the official truth. The thing that was so great about Mark Twain, we honor Mark Twain, but we don't read him. We may read Huck Finn. Well, of course, Huck was tremendous. Remember what Huck did? That great scene on the raft. When Huck... See, you have to question the official truth. And the truth was that a black man is a property, is a thing. See, and you see, Huck is on with a property named Jim, a slave, see, on the raft. And he heard that Jim's going to do a terrible thing. And Huck is 13, 12. Jim said he's going to go look for his wife and kids. He's going to steal them from the woman or the person who owns them. And Huck said, oh, that woman never did me any harm. He said, oh, he's going to steal. In Huck's own mind. Huck Finn, it's what it's all about, you see. The goodness of Huck. He's an illiterate kid, right? He's had no schooling, but there's something in him. And he says, it's a terrible thing. What an awful thing that he's going to steal. Just then, two slavers caught up. The guys, looking for slaves. And they come up, looking for Jim. Anybody up on that raft with you? And Huck, yeah? They know somebody's there. Is he white or black? And Huck says, white. And they go off. And Huck says, oh my God, my conscience, I
I lied, you know. I lied. Oh, I lied. It's I did a terrible thing. Why do I feel so good? But there you got it. In Huck, you see. You captured the human species. But that stuff that Huck is here. You see, it's all been buried. It's all been buried. We're all demeaned. We're all under the bed. Who's under the bed? Clowns. The clowns are under the bed. We're burlesque comics and the ringmasters. Who's the ringmasters? The guys who run the conglomerates, whoever they are. These ringmasters themselves are clowns too, except they don't have power. You see, but they're faceless. The irony is, these guys are faceless. The ringmasters in the old days, you knew in the old days, this clown, this brute, but they're all there. But they're faceless. So there you have it. So, okay, kid, I gotta scram. Gotta go see my cardiologist.
People ask me, why are you doing this matter of hope? Maybe hope subsides slightly. A friend of mine said, hope subsides, but curiosity remains. Curiosity about the human race, especially my fellow Americans. And so I know my epitaph is going to be. Here's my epitaph. Curiosity did not kill this cat.
I'd like extraordinary quiet to begin this thing because we need to hear from someone very, very important.
I like what I do. I like my work, and I enjoy my work. I don't play down anymore. I do it, you know, and if that affects someone, fine. Apparently it has in some few, and that's good. That's a bonus. But I do it because I enjoy doing it, you know. I think everybody would like to be remembered, you know, one way or another, you know, leaving a mark, whatever that is, for better or for worse, you know. I suppose, for want of a better word, immortality. I think the point is to delight in life. You know, this sounds like a goddamn, you know, this sounds like a Sunday morning philosophy, you know. But when somebody stops me on the street, here's a great experience. A stranger, he says, Jesus Christ, I read that book working. I'll never again talk to a telephone operator that same way I did before. I'll never treat a waitress the same way, look at a truck driver the same way. He says, you changed the way I think about these people. But that's pretty good. I like that.
These really are the chosen few, because Studs, being Studs, has been planning this very event for at least 10 years. He would tell me every time we'd have a drink, Rick, you can MC it, MC the thing. And Quentin, and then I go, I don't want to talk about this, Studs. I don't want to talk about this. You'll do it now, it'll be great. We'll have the music and Jamie O'Reilly. And God love Tony Judge for listening to this and somehow maybe writing it down and being able to put together not just a Tony Judge production, this is a Studs Terkel production tonight.
When I hear politicians talking about serving two streets, Wall Street and Main Street, I don't know what the hell they're talking about, because there's only one street, which is our street, which is Studs' street, which is our street. I think that's one of the messages that prevails in all Studs' work and in his life as well, understanding who we are and looking into us.
You celebrated people. You had a way of making them seem better in their own eyes. There are countless stories about your faith in your fellow man, but one we love is about that time a burglar stuck you up in your own home. He cleaned out your wallet. Were you crushed and did you despair? Not for a moment. You had faith that the guy had some goodness in his heart. You told him, "Hey man, you've left me without bus fare." And the burglar thought that over and gave you bus fare. So you were right, but something more than that may have been happening. By treating him as a human being, you may have had an effect on the way he thought about himself.
Studs had a fantastic opus, many books, different topics, all of them useful and human and progressive, but it was his daily hour-long interview with all kinds of people. I could spend the rest of the evening and won't, describing the variety of people in sports and in art and in politics, all of whom he interviewed with spectacular skill. I'm convinced, absolutely convinced, that 50, 100 years, 200 years from now, the best record of what happened to this country, this world, in the troubled 20th and early 21st century will be embodied in that.
But I put it this way, as when people, African, black folk, some of them, making the comment that the president, who was before that was the president, said that Barack Obama was not black enough. Well, let me tell you, there probably are people who said Studs Terkel was not white enough. He was a hero because he was not necessarily black or white in his behavior or brown or any. He was human in that behavior. And until we have the Studs Terkel examples all over this world, we're going to continue to have definitions, black, white, brown, male, female, and all that crap, because we do not embrace the humanitarian conditions and the humanitarian images of the Studs Terkels.
Very often, young historians, young oral historians will come to me and say, what was Studs' secret? In a way, you can find the secret in reading the text, of course, because there are so many people who begin very reticent, very defensively, and end up pouring their hearts out. Even the pilot who dropped the bomb over Hiroshima. He was able to get, from an ex-KKK member or from this guy, he was able to get the truth even when they had been lying to themselves. Studs had profound respect for the people to whom he spoke. They weren't just objects. They were not just samples. They were not just people he could use to his advantage. They were people who he really wanted to know and who felt the respect that he had for them. And this is something, alas, that very, very few people who do interviews or write about folks are able to master.
Another favorite image of mine took place at Northwestern University. He was getting an honorary degree, and I was his faculty presenter, so we put on our robes together and looked across the room where another honoree, Judge Richard Posner, was putting on his robes. We went over to say hello to him. Posner is the judge who thinks that the marketplace rules should determine what the law is. So Studs went over and asked him, now that you're a judge, are you still teaching law at my old school? Studs went to the Chicago Law School, and the judge said yes. And he asked the judge, what did you teach this semester? And Posner said, evidence. As you know, even then, this was some time back, Studs was very hard of hearing and normally heard what he expected to hear or thought would be appropriate. So when the judge said evidence, Studs said, avarice?
I've told this story before, but who told a story more than once more than Mr. Terkel? So I feel like I can tell it again. I first met him when I came to work at the Quiet Night a long time ago. I was a waitress, and he came to a Wobbly's benefit, and Industrial Workers of the World, for anybody who's young enough not to know what I'm talking about. And he was in my section. He and Ida and a couple other people, I don't remember. So I came around to get the drink order. And he started interviewing me. How long had I been in Chicago? Where was I from? Did I know what the Wobblies was about? How did I like Chicago? And finally I said to him, Mr. Turkle, I read Working. I loved working. I am working. What do you want to drink? In his way of telling the same thing, but with slightly altered, he was like a musician. He sort of conducted his life like a musician with this improvisatory flair, but amazing chops underneath. The thing about him was that he saw through any situation, any event, and he would create clarity for you. So I don't even know, Jamie O'Reilly wrote an email to me and said, I don't know how to make sense of the world anymore, and that's exactly how I feel. Every day I want to hear what he would have to say about what's going on. So I feel a little unhinged since he's been gone. And he was so ready to go. So I'm happy for him, but I'm pissed. Because I was not ready, and I know so many of you were not ready.
If indeed my dad's spirit is present in this hall, as I'm sure it is, he's no doubt lifting a glass in honor of everyone here. I honestly don't know whether there's a heaven or a hell. But just in case, I would bet that Tail Gunner Joe and my father are not in the same place. So, here's to you, Pop. Take it easy, but take it.